Hello, everybody. All right. Nice to be back. I think this is number 257 or something like that. Um, that's a lot of Q and A's, huh? A lot of questions answered for years and years. All right. So, do we have any questions to start with? Let me check my website real quick. There was one that came up on my website, so let me tell you guys this. If you go to my website and post on the live stream while we're actually, it should be like 24 hours in advance, or I might not see it. So someone did ask, can I discuss sight reading tips and tricks in more detail, please? Yes. So I'm sorry this took so long. That was July 25th when that question was asked. Can I discuss sight reading tips and tricks? Hello, Karen. Nice to see you. Um, so yeah, sight reading. My perspective on sight reading is very different. First of all, if you're looking for tips and tricks about what to do while you're actually sight reading, I don't believe it works that way. You guys have heard me talk about how great trumpet playing. Hello, Eduardo. You guys have heard me talk about how uh, great trumpet playing is mostly mental. In fact, I say almost 100% mental. Why do I say it like that? Because I do leave exception for things I might not know. Without leaving that exception, it would be 100%. I would say that great trumpet playing is 100% mental. And how do I know this? Because the best performances I've ever had, my mind was not engaged. And this is what I've been shooting for all this time now, is for performances that I'm not thinking what I call small, low-level thoughts, right? I'm not thinking what valve to push down, what note am I playing, what are the chords, none of that mechanical stuff. The thoughts I have during a great performance are thoughts like, believe it or not, what am I going to eat for lunch? That kind of stuff that has nothing to do with music. And why would I talk about sight reading in that context? Surely sight reading is different. Surely you have to be concentrating during sight reading. Isn't that what our band directors always told us, is that we have to be concentrating even more now because we've never seen the music before? So surely when we're sight reading, we should concentrate more. I used to play in the what's it called, the Houston Pops Orchestra, led by Ned Batista, and it was a sight reading gig. You get on the gig, you turn the page, you turn the next page, you turn the next page. It's all in a ring binder. You turn, you play, you turn, you play, you turn, you play, you turn, you play. Most of the gigs were 2 hours long, and there were no breaks. By the time I got a quarter of an hour in, or maybe a half hour into it, I started the daydream. When it happened the first time, it freaked me out because I still believed the nonsense that everybody else believes about how you have to really be paying attention when you sight read. But it happened again, and it happened again, and it happened again. And the truth was, I always played better in that gig when I wasn't paying attention. Now, am I suggesting that if you stop paying attention, you're going to sight read better? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that great trumpet playing is not sourced from your conscious mind, it's sourced from your subconscious mind. So when you get sight reading right, you do start to daydream. You do start to daydream. And so, and now today, I welcome that. I welcome that when it happens. So the question is, however, how do you get there? How do you get to that place in your trumpet playing, your sight reading, where you can turn your conscious mind off and let autopilot play the song for you? How do you get there? You have to do lots and lots and lots of sight reading. All the other stuff is in support of the sight reading, and it's secondary. And not only is it secondary, it's also almost not important. What do I mean by that? You can be a great sight reader without doing any of the supportive stuff. I think you get there faster if you do the supportive stuff. Now, what is the supportive stuff? The supportive stuff is your tonalization studies. Notice I didn't say scales. Scales are not going to get you there. Scales don't make you a better sight reader. Scales are in the conscious part of your mind, not subconscious. Tonalization studies work through the subconscious. Scales don't. The only way the scales will work out of the subconscious is if you do the same exact scale exercise every day. You want to come up? Yeah, so if you do the same exercise, if you do all those skills in the same order every day, they can be automatic. Will they be will they be beneficial for your sight reading? Not in the sense that I'm talking about. So that's one beneficial thing, is doing the tonalization studies. Another beneficial thing is to master all rhythms. And the way I like to do that mastering is that you do a bunch of them over and over and over again. So, like, for example, when I teach my beginners, we have, I don't know, 4 or 5 etudes that have the eighth notes in the second beat. Ba 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 be ba 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 be ba ba ba. They all, every etude has that same rhythm. excuse me. Okay. Then then 4 or 5 A2s where the eighth notes are on the third beat. Ba 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 beep ba 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 ba, that kind of thing. And by doing those same rhythms over and over again on different musical contexts, you don't even have to. No, don't get me wrong. I still teach the student to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I still teach that. I still teach that. But remember, that's for understanding. That's not let's say this too. Understanding does not make it automatic. Understanding how a rhythm goes does not mean you're going to play it correctly automatically. That doesn't come from it being understood. It comes from it being overly drilled. You only play a rhythm correctly automatically in the sight reading if it is over drilled. Now, why do I say that this stuff is unnecessary? Practically unnecessary? Is because you have all of that inside of your sight reading. If you sight read all the time, and we live in a great time to do sight reading because of the YouTube, right? I have over 100 play along videos, and there's literally thousands of play along videos on YouTube. And you just find the ones that work for you and you play along with them. That's sight reading. I think I got bit by a mosquito. My right foot is hurting. Hello, Daniel. Saludos. I follow your Q&A and videos with a lot of interest. I also bought some of your books, all of them very useful. Well, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for all that you do for us learners. You're welcome. That's what I'm here for. And thank you for buying the books. So, that's someplace I've never been. Madrid. Madrid. My my R's are a bit of a problem. Okay. Um, that's someplace I would like to go someday. I've never been there. I've been different places of Europe, but that's not one place I've been. Madrid. If I'm not mistaken, isn't that where Picasso is from? I think Picasso grew up in Madrid, and then when he became an artist, an adult, he moved to Paris. But it was the art scene in Madrid that got him started, and I would much rather go to Madrid than to go to Paris. I've been to Paris. I didn't like it much. It was just a huge city. So yes, you're welcome. I love hearing from people that are using the books and getting stuff out of the videos. I love to hear from you guys. And anytime you want to pop in and say, hey, this is what's happening. I got so much great news from you guys this week. And I say you guys, I mean, I'm lumping all of you together. Um, Great news about people who are benefiting from the books and benefiting from the videos. Lots of great news this week. And that's part of what this Q and A is about, right? Because it helps motivate the others to hear that you're actually making progress and getting something out of it. Yeah. So, yes, to me, the whole sight reading thing is about doing what you can to make everything more automatic. If, in my opinion, if the way you're approaching sight reading is that you're trying harder, I think that's actually working against you. I think trying harder to sight read better is working against you. There should be no trying. Does that make sense? There should be no trying. It's sort of like a Yoda thing, don't try, do, right? It's sort of like Yoda. You don't, you don't, something that's supposed to be second nature doesn't happen by trying, okay? So, Eduardo asks, do I have any tips on how to warm up before a gig? Um, Generally speaking, I don't warm up. Generally, generally speaking, if I do have to warm up, and normally if I feel like I have to warm up, it's going to be because the previous gig was too demanding. So I've got some swelling. I might have a little bit of lip tissue damage. And let's say the next gig is at 7 in the morning. Then the warm up I do is that warm up that I got complimented on. It's based on, I forget that book, the guy that wrote Schlossberg. It's based on Schlossberg. The first thing I do, and this is at super soft volumes. I don't know if you could hear that, but the tone had sort of a pulse to it. And the reason I was holding it was to see if at that volume I could make that pulse go away. I think it was, they sucked so much blood out of me, so much water out of me on Fridays because they want me to get ahead of it so that when I come in on Monday, it's not too much water, right? So, but yes, I'll do C to B, and then I'll take the horn off my lips, and then switch to B flat. Take my horn off my lips, do the next one. And I'm going to go down to low F sharp. And most of the time, that's my whole warm up. Most of the time. If I feel like I need more than that, I will improvise a very short version of the physical trumpet pyramid. So I'll start now. This is instead of what I just did. Let's keep that in mind. And I might do what I just did, but if I think I need a longer warm up, I will start with air, and then I'll add the lip buzz. And what I said is I'm improvising, so I'm gonna lip buzz an improvised melody. So I improvise a melody. I put the mouthpiece on it. Then I improvise a melody on the mouthpiece. Okay, then I'll switch to the horn and I will improvise a melodic lyrical thing instead of playing long tones. And at this point, I might do that half step thing down. Maybe. Remember, it's improvising. I might insert it there. Notice one thing that's going on here. It's all pianissimo. All of the warm up is pianissimo. The whole thing. Then I'll go on to some scale type stuff, usually chromatic. So, but improvised, not a scale pattern, an improvised chromatic melody. And then I will go on from there to something with more intervals in it. So, and depending on how much I need, I'll just keep going through the pyramid. So that now, um, there's no need to get through the whole thing. It's just a matter of getting your lips back to where they need to be, just for the gig. Okay? And for me personally, that's how it works. I like to play soft stuff, and that gets me warmed up. Hello, Kevin. Kevin says, hi, Mr. Lewis. When you sight read, are you moving your eyes slightly ahead of the notes in anticipation of playing them, or do you play them as you get to them? This is a widely propagated myth. Now, it's not really a myth, but let's talk about it. The part that's the myth is what should be going on in your head. It is true that great sight readers are continually scanning across the page like this. They have done studies with people who do great sight reading, right? And it's not that they're looking ahead. Yes, they are looking ahead, but then they go look back and then ahead and then back and then ahead. They have a a way of tracking your eyeball so that it shows you where on the page you're looking. And so they did some research on some musicians, and yes, they look ahead, but they look back too. And here's the myth part of it. You don't have to make yourself do that. Yes, it's true. That's what happens. No, it's not true. That's what you should do. This is the difference between academics and real world musicians. Academics take a step back. We see this more in jazz than everything else. The academics take a step back and say, oh, look, if you take the notes that Charlie Parker played and put it all together, it's a bebop scale. That's not a bebop scale. Okay? It's not a blues scale. But that's what the academics do. They have to pound the round peg into the square hole. Don't get me wrong. You know, you hear me all the time talking about the academics. Um, I learned so much from being in school. But the process I had to go through was to separate what was true from what I was, I was taught a lot of stuff. I had to separate the true stuff from the stuff that was dogmatic. I'm the guy that asks, why? Why do you say this? Why do you do this? Why? All of it. I question all of it. And there's a lot of stuff that they teach in academia that is just not true. There's no foundation of truth in it whatsoever. And that's one of those things. Look ahead. Look ahead. Look ahead. No, when you spend more time sight reading, your eyes will do what they have to do. You don't have to try to look ahead. Every time in my life that I ever tried to look ahead, I crashed and burned on the sight reading. I have a friend, she's I don't want to say half famous. Well, I'd rather say half famous than half not famous, right? That's at least it's an optimistic term. She's half famous. Carol Morgan. Look her up. She's a trumpet player in New York City. She used to live here, and we did a lot of work together. Um, and I love working with her. I hope she feels the same with me. Maybe not. I don't know. Um, but yes, the two of us did a lot of work together when she lived here. And we we would be on a sight reading gig, and someone would be looking ahead, and she goes, no cheating, right? No cheating. And yes, she's one of the best sight readers that I've ever worked with. And she loved to get on a gig like that and not look ahead on purpose. She called looking ahead cheating. Don't cheat. What we want is for our eyes to naturally do what that study said we would do, right? Not everything that is studied is something that we should do. If you study a a jazz player and you notice that he continually plays F sharp over a D minor 7 chord, that he's always. So now you're going to say, hey, this guy always plays F sharp on a D minor 7 chord. I'm going to start playing F sharp on a D minor 7 chord. That's not it. You're missing the point. You're trying to do like the academics and pound a square, a round peg into a square hole. It doesn't work like that. Look at what he played. Don't just look at which notes fit over the chord. Don't do that. Because, I tell my jazz students, whatever it is you're thinking, that's what they're hearing. If you're thinking notes, that's what the audience hears, is notes. If you're thinking scales, that's what the audience hears, is scales. If you're thinking chromatic patterns, then that's what the audience hears, is chromatic patterns. And none of what I just listed is in any sense musical. And I think I even go as far today, I even go as far as to say, if what you're thinking are the chord progressions, that's what the audience is going to hear, is chord progressions. And that's not musical either. Yeah, so we see that a lot in the jazz stuff. Um, I remember, I hope I'm not getting this right. I hope I'm not getting this wrong. I remember a long time ago, like in the mid to late 80s, I think, when I heard an interview with Wynton Marsalis. And he was very outspoken against jazz education the way it's taught in the schools. Now, I don't know where he stands on that stuff today, but on that interview, I heard him talking about that. And I have to agree with him completely. That's not music. Forget about whether it's jazz or not jazz. That's not music. Play me a bunch of notes. You ever hear anyone say that? Hey, I hear you're a trumpet player. Will you play me a bunch of notes? Nobody's going to say that. Hey, I hear you're a trumpet player. Will you play me a bunch of scales? Make them real fast. Nobody wants to hear scales. But there's a lot of stuff in academia that they teach that is that should have never become more than just a objective observation. Oh, look, when we measure this guy's eye patterns, he's looking ahead. He's also looking back. His eyes are constantly scanning the page. That is not an indication that that's what we should do. That is not an indication that that's what should be on our mind. What you're seeing is the aftermath of proper training. And where does that proper training come from? It comes from spending more time sight reading. It's the same equation with the improv. Spend more time improvising. It's the same thing. You want to be a great improviser? Spend more time improvising. You want to be a great sight reader? Spend more time sight reading. You can do the supportive stuff. It will help you get there faster. But that's without spending time. If you didn't spend enough time sight reading, the supportive stuff will not make you a better sight reader. I'm going to say that one more time because it's so important. If you don't spend more time sight reading, then the stuff you do in your practice time to support sight reading will make no difference at all. Not a single bit of difference. No difference at all. Kevin says, thank you. I've tried both as well and didn't notice much difference. Right? Yeah, don't you don't have to be cognizant of that. You don't. Hello, Jeffrey. Jeffrey is there. Any other questions? Any questions? Haha. Eduardo says, don't forget to add thumbs up. You know, I don't ask you guys for that stuff. And I understand that it helps. I do understand that it helps. Okay? I get it. Do you know what helps more? Is like Mr. Nadell saying from Madrid, saying, I follow your Q and A videos and your books and all this stuff is helping. That's what helps. Don't get me wrong. Thank you for the thumbs up. Those help too. But I don't think there's much that helps better than people saying, oh, what you teach and your materials and all of that stuff and your videos are helping. When you do better, that sells the method, even without you having to tell anybody. Because people, the better you get, the more in all that people will be like, wow, where did that come from? And then you don't have to go, when it's real, when it's not fake, you don't have to put comments everywhere. You don't have to. I mean, don't. Once again, I appreciate all of that. I do. I really do. But more than anything else, I want you guys to succeed. I want you to be successful. Because not and you know what, that makes it sound like it almost makes it sound like I want you to be successful so that I can be successful. No, I want you to be successful. Full stop. End of story. I want you to be successful. Not so that I can sell more books, not so I can have more plays on the videos, not so I can get more likes. I want you to be successful for your whatever purposes you have in life. Well, I want you to fulfill your purpose in as far as as your musicianship goes. I want you to fulfill your purpose. That is my desire. So now, uh, I don't get me wrong, Eduardo. I appreciate you even saying so, right? I appreciate you saying, "Hey, don't forget the thumbs up." Thank you, right? Um, because that kind of thing does help in regards to the YouTube. Everyone's always talking about the YouTube algorithm. Um, the yes, the likes and all that stuff, they help with YouTube. But I'm going to tell you something. I've been online much longer than I've been on YouTube, and I understand the SEO stuff probably better than most 60-year-old people. And I can tell you, it's always been that Google knows how to see who's genuine and who's not. So instead of just trying to play SEO tricks, trying to get the YouTube, I mean the Google stuff to find you when you haven't done anything yet, that's Google knows when you're doing that. Okay? When you actually make a real difference in people's lives, there is no SEO, there is no algorithm that can stand up to that. You can have people that play the algorithm all the time. There's nothing that stands up to genuine success. Nothing. Nothing. But let me also restate one more time because this is important. I don't want you to be successful so that I can be successful. All I want is for you to be successful. And and I don't often talk about my religious beliefs here, but the reason why I have the luxury to live my life this way is because I don't see, you know, I pray every day for God's provision, and He provides it. God provides all the sustenance I need. Now that doesn't mean I don't want people to buy my books because sometimes He uses people to to do that, right? It's but if God is the one that's directing people to buy my stuff, then I don't have to be the one to convince you. God will convince you. If God wants you to buy my books, then God will tell you buy Eddie's books. If if God doesn't tell you to do that, then don't do it. not not for my sake. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. So I see God as my provider, and I don't have to manipulate a single person to make that happen. I don't have to manipulate anybody. Okay? And that's really what all the rest of that stuff is manipulation. Gary says, when I sight read, I often have to stop at random points and take a breath. I don't usually I don't use a metronome for it, but should I? Um, the problem with sight reading without I'm not going to say that it's not beneficial, but if we just put like an A2 book on and sight reading, I mean, uh, for decades we all had to do that, and that was the only sight reading we had outside of uh, playing duets. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't do it, but we've got so many ways. You don't need them. So yes, I would recommend a metronome. Yes, and if the reason you have to stop is to take a breath, then I'm not worried about that. There is this phenomenon, by the way, where I call it the buffer. When you're sight reading, the buffer can run out and you just stop, especially if you're playing by yourself. The buffer just runs out. What is the buffer? The buffer is stored memory, stored information in your mind, and you play, and play, and then you get to the end of what was stored. And the reason you ran out is because you're not taking in the new information as fast as you're playing. So the answer, if it's not just to take a breath and you actually do have to stop for a reason more like that, like you just get to a brick wall and it just stops. If that's the reason, then the answer to that is you're going too fast. If you're sight reading and you have to stop, not to breathe, but to refill your buffer, then you're going too fast. And most problems can be fixed that way. If people would diligently practice slowly and deliberately, if people would practice slow, so many problems would be fixed. And I think sometimes we think that if we sight read slowly, that we don't get the benefit. When it's actually the other way around, we get more benefit by sight reading slow. So that's what I have to say about that. Eduardo says, helping others makes you a rich man. Not talking about money here, since to give means to receive. That's right. You know what I've been thinking about lately? They say what you sow, you reap. And I've never had a lot of money. But what I've done just about my whole life is I've given people time. And last year, I'm about a year away from when I was in the hospital. And last year, when they told me stuff like, oh, you know how close to dying you are and stuff like that, when they told me that stuff, I knew it was hogwash. Why? Because I sowed time, and I know that I've got more time. I know that deep in my heart. It has nothing to do with the medical. I know what I've sown into to people call it my ministry. I've sown time, not money. I've given people time. And yes, I've had, let me tell you this, I've had time miracles happen. If you sow time, I believe time miracles can happen where time comes out of nowhere, where you need more time. Oh no, here's a crisis that's happening. I need more time. And voila, there's the new time. There's more time. Enough time to get whatever done was necessary to get done. I'm a firm believer in that. Daniel says, thanks for your kind words. And as you always say, God bless you. That's right. God bless you. Um, Karen says, what if you are sight reading in band and have to keep up with the conductor? Okay, of course that's different. You're right. Of course that's different. Um, but when you take that piece home to practice it, and we've talked about this before, when you take that piece home, let's say you're going to do the 10 times thing or the 50 times thing, it should not be at full tempo. I'm looking at my eyeball and this one. Oh, okay. Ha! It's this one feels like it's looping, and this one is the one that's actually looping. Not looping, drooping. I'm sorry, drooping. Um, I can feel this, but that's not the one that's. It's from the dialysis. I'm telling you, it's from the dialysis. Oh, what a what an inconvenient procedure that is. All right, so yes, when you take that music home, sight read it slowly, not slowly. You guys know, I think I've told you, when we're practicing, it should be 65% of the final total. Sometimes lower than that, but yes, we're looking for 65%. The golden ratio, right? We call that the golden ratio. So if the music is written at 100 beats per minute, then you should be practicing it. Even your sight reading, you should be practicing it at 65. What else? Any other questions? Any other questions? Gary says, so 100 beat per minute band piece should be played at 65. Yes, that's right. When practicing, that's right. Hello, Raimo. Um, it was great to get your email. It was great to get your email. Thank you for that. Any other questions? You know what's scary is being this different in my approach to trumpet. It really is scary. How do you practice intonation? That's a very interesting question. Um, Notice that that's not the same question as how do you play in tune? How do you practice intonation? I think the most common thing that people do today is they practice with drones. Now, my approach to the drone thing is different from most people. Remember, we've talked about intonation before. And my stance on intonation, this is one of those things I was just saying. It's scary how different what I teach is because um, the other famous people will never get behind what I say. I said other famous people. I know I'm not famous. Oh, but yes, the other trumpet teachers will never get behind what I say. What do I say about intonation? Is that there's no such thing that it's cultural. And we had a whole Q and A on that subject. Um, Playing in tune is cultural. Now, how do you practice in tune, playing in tune? That's a different thing. You can practice just because playing in tune is cultural doesn't mean you can't practice it. And the most readily available way to practice playing in tune is with drones. You put like, let's say, for example, you want to practice tuning a G over a C drone. So you sustain a G over the drone, and you hold it and maybe adjust it if you need to, but you hold that G, you stay on G until it sounds good to you. Now, one of the things that you can do while you're playing on that drone is to bend the note down and when it floats back up, remember when we do bends, we want it to float back up. We don't force it back up. We let it float back up. When you get to the actual pitch, then you listen to it, and if that doesn't sound good, you should probably adjust your slide. Now, if it's the G, you should probably adjust your tuning slide. Of course, some people will say that's not a good idea. Figure it out. It's mathematical. The most important thing is to play what sounds good to you. Don't use a tuner. Please don't use a tuner. I use the tuner only to calibrate my horn. I do not ever, nor do I recommend it, use the tuner to tune a note. You tune the note by making it sound good. That's it. So you can practice intonation by playing duets with somebody. You can practice intonation by playing along with a play along video. But the most readily thing that we have is the drones. And Karen asked, are you saying drone? That's correct, D-R-O-N-E. And what do you mean when you refer to it? A drone is a sustained vibration, a sustained pitch. There are actually, okay, I don't have my phone with me. I'm going to go to Windows Store. Microsoft Store. And I'm going to search for drone. And just in Microsoft Store, let me take the word musical out. Okay, I'm not finding any of them on Microsoft Store. I would have thought that they had dozens of them. Maybe practice drone? Yes, it's basically one note that just keeps buzzing, 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 buzzing until you're done with it. No, I'm not seeing anything. How bizarre is that? I know for sure that the phones have apps for the drones. Okay, so Eduardo says that there's a drone tone tool in Google. Let me look at that. So yes, if you put that in the Google, and then you pick the note that you want, and then you practice bending up, bending down, adjusting the slides, whatever you have to do to make it sound good. Don't and you know what? Don't think of it as playing in tune. Think of it as in sounding good. Because you can't sound good without being in tune. This is this intonation stuff is another one of those mythological things. We've talked about it philosophically here in the Q and A. We've talked about it here. I went through the whole spiel about uh, how intonation is cultural, not mathematical. We went through the whole philosophical thing. Intonation is, you can boil down intonation into one question: does it sound good? If it sounds good, who can say anything about that? Nobody. Nobody. And if they try to say, well, you're 2 cents sharper, you're 2 cents flat. I had a friend, he passed away, but he used to say, uh, someone would say, buddy, you're out of tune. And he says, who told you? Who told you I was out of tune? Insinuating that this person had no way of knowing if he was out of tune or not. And I think what Buddy used to say is actually universal. I would much rather someone tell me, Eddie, you sound like crap. Pardon my French, sorry. Um, I would much rather someone say something like that than to say, oh, Eddie, you're out of tune. Um, one of the reasons we didn't talk about this before, but part of the myth of intonation is the assumption that everybody else is in tune with each other. And that's just not mathematically possible. There is no such thing. What you do have is people that get closer, but how do they get closer? There's only one way to get closer, and you do what you have to make it sound good. So, so yeah. So that's how I would recommend practicing intonation is so what you do is you try different notes over the drone. Start today with C as a drone. Now remember that the drone isn't transposed. So if you click C on that page that Eduardo shared with us, it's going to be a D, so it's not transposed. All right. So you put the drone on, and you can go up the cycle of up the harmonic series. So you could start at the octave, play the octave until it sounds good to you. Then play the fifth until it sounds good to you. Then play the major third until it sounds good to you. And then just pick random notes. Play the sixth and keep doing that till that sounds good to you. This what I'm saying is probably one of the most controversial things that I have the potential of getting a lot of hate mail for saying that uh, intonation is not mathematical, that it's completely, 100%. Intonation is 100% cultural. And people, if enough people were to hear this, I would get hate mail because that's how they were taught. They were taught to believe, and it is a belief. They were taught to believe that playing in tune was somehow mathematical. And if it's mathematical, therefore kind of scientific and objective. Like objective in the sense that if someone says you're out of tune, then you're really out of tune. It's not like that. It's not objective. It's not it's not mathematical. It's not scientific. It is 100% cultural. Gary says, love the answer, Eddie. This is really useful information. I know how your idea keeps things simple and practical for me. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that, Gary. All right, everybody. Another Q and A in the books. Um, thank you as always for hanging out. Um, I'm not gonna share Sean's personal information, but I will ask you to pray for um his health. Um, and Sean is one of the guys that usually participates here. He sent me an email this week letting me know what was going on with him. I know why he's not here today, and it has to do with his health. And I would like to ask you guys to pray for him for a quick recovery. All right, Kevin says thank you, Mr. Lewis, and have a good weekend. All right. Well, God bless you guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time. All right.